for this. 5, 18, 20. Team coaching 2.5K. Okay, so now we pull it up. Why are you here? You know, what made you guys as a team decide, you know, we're gonna get yelled at and told how bad we are? What's the idea here?
Yeah, so we, for fun, over the summer entered into an amateur league.
Okay.
And we played a match yesterday against the team that we're pretty sure is the best team in the league. We think we're also decent compared to the other teams. But we did a best of 2 and lost both matches. And yeah, we want to try to win next time we go against them.
Okay. So you guys are guerrilla warfare, I assume.
That's right.
You guys are very cute here with your names and such.
You.
How, you know, what distribution of stuff do you want? Just only drafting, like?
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit about drafting. Maybe not too much focus there, but some for sure.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest thing is like some understanding about like getting more out of our lanes based on the heroes we picked, and then I guess I could kind of circle back to drafting and like what we could pick better. And then sort of how we navigate the mid and late game, especially like how we take fights, how we push, how we work around objectives. There was a Slark on the enemy team, and so sort of like how to do all of that without getting picked off, which ended up happening a lot this game.
Okay. So my question for you
things.
then, I did listen. My question for you is, you know, how would you consider your hero pools for like supports, cores, like? Do you feel like most of you only have about 5 to 10 heroes? Do you feel like some of you only have a couple heroes? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, it's pretty small. We when we formed the team, it was only like a month or so ago.
Okay.
And so just for the sake of kind of practicing and getting on the same page, we all picked just a handful of heroes, thinking that we would just spam those so we could get a better sense of like playing together and have that be the focus rather than like trying to expand our individual hero pools.
I understand that. Okay, I agree with that. I just wanted to make sure about your philosophy and understanding we're on the same page. So,
Totally.
My thing for that is then, I guess a brief moment would be like if you're gonna ban Warlock, for instance, what does Warlock do for the draft? I guess you could say.
I think it secures a safe lane carry, some farm with. Like it makes it easier for him to stay in his lane against resistance
Because of like the heal and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's important that when you ban these heroes, I'm just bringing this to your attention in drafting. When you ban these type of heroes, even at this bracket, like in terms of like, you know, it doesn't have to be professional level. If you're securing the lane against like heavy harass, for instance, then what does that open up the enemy team to do if you ban a hero like that?
Pick a really aggressive dual lane, which is what they did both games, and we really suffered to it.
So the minute you see this, so here's how drafting works, okay?
Yeah.
First and foremost, I presented like, you know, the ban means that you give them something because you remove a hero from the pool. It also gives you something, meaning like, if you're going to ban Warlock, it should be because you plan to pick an aggressive dual lane. Like, that's why you should ban Warlock. What I mean is, if you have a limited amount of heroes that you play, that means those heroes have a specific way of playing. So you should actually prioritize your bans for lanes right now, because lanes are more important than anything else, just in this current meta. It may change in the future, so try to, you know, stay up with that as best you can. But ban heroes that prevent your heroes from doing what they want to do. So if you're wanting to pick aggressive dual lanes that harass a lot, you know, ban Warlock. But if that's not what you're trying to do, then leave Warlock. You know what I mean? Like, don't ban those heroes that don't stop what your heroes want to do. Like, when I look at your heroes, I don't think your draft's, like, bad or anything. I just don't look at your draft and go, they have an aggressive dual lane that Warlock would be really good against. You know what I mean? Like, so all I'm saying is it's okay to have limited heroes. But in my opinion, it's actually best to just ban whatever's really good against your limited heroes rather than banning maybe stuff you're afraid of or something. You know what I mean? Like, just ban stuff that's really good against whatever you want to do. So first and foremost that. But secondly, if you see this aggressive dual lane, this is how drafting works. You see heroes, every hero in the game presents a problem. Okay, like whatever it is, like they're a strong laner, they're strong late game, whatever. They take towers, they present some sort of issue. And that should be addressed in your next pick, like every time. So whatever they present, you pick something that addresses it. So what hero do you think you could pick right here that would address this? I'll give you a hint, it's banned.
The Warlock? Or the Witch Doctor?
Right? Because Warlock's already banned. We can't, like, rewind time and unban that, right? So something that's available once they've picked it is what I'm trying to say. Right?
We definitely noticed in hindsight that we really missed, because usually our 5-position plays either Warlock or Witch Doctor.
Okay.
And we wanted to, in our draft, secure this SK Brew opener. We've done it in most of our games so far, and usually what happens is they have enough pressure coming out from our off lane that, like the 4-position, I'm the carry player, and the 4-position has to leave our safe lane, or my lane, and then I get free farm 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
So that's kind of how our game plan has been so far.
So what I will say for that, realistically, is in even skill matchups. Let's just, for the sake of it, assume even skill matchups.
Yeah.
What I mean by this is, to tell you where I'm coming from, is I learned a lot of lessons in the closed qualifiers that I hadn't been drafting for, 6 months or whatever, because I hadn't been on a team or I hadn't even drafted at all. And there were lessons that I didn't actually learn in the open qualifiers drafting, because there were actually mistakes, there were holes in my draft, but I couldn't learn them because we were just better than the teams we played against. For instance, like you just don't learn the holes because they don't punish it, right? They're like, you just don't know. And the minute I played against like as good or better teams than us, like I learned lessons real fucking quick. Okay, like so you're saying this team is probably the best in the league, maybe a bit better than you, maybe you're close, whatever, similar or better. Anytime you make a mistake in the draft, it's gonna show. Like it's just gonna show. So my example is you can have very limited hero pools for your team, but if you are presented with a problem, it has to be addressed. Otherwise, you immediately, like in the next pick, because otherwise, what happens is you're going to be playing catch up for the rest of the game. Because then every pick they pick, now not only do you have to address the new pick, but you also have to address the old picks, and suddenly that becomes much harder. And sometimes there's not even a hero that can do it. So my point is, like, if you want this Brew SK, honestly, you just have to sacrifice not picking Brew here, and if they ban it, you have to have some backup. I assume your offlane has more than one hero. I think that's realistic. He has more than one hero. So if you have SK, if you're willing to pick SK first, have at least 2, maybe 3 offlaners that your offlaner's willing to play with Sand King, right? I don't think it's good to pick a first pick hero with the intention of having it only have one combination, because then it kind of like limits you a lot, right? Because if you only have one combination, then this one combination effectively makes you not pick this, and then your safe lane is going to be much harder, right? That's what, like, an example I'm using. So obviously these things are like, these can be relatively advanced, but at the same time, like if you said your player plays Witch Doctor and you saw like this is a heavy scary lane, we need heal. Like, that was really the one pick, and we're not expecting you to draft perfectly. All I'm simply saying is, make sure if you see a problem, it's immediately addressed. What happens here is this. They pick Beastmaster. So if your first pick, here's how it works. They only have one pick. If you pick a support, your first pick, they only have one pick in terms of core matchups that should theoretically counter you, because you pick a support, they either pick 2 supports or 1 core. Say they pick 2 supports. Then you pick another support. And then core, counter core, core, counter core. Core, they counter you. So you have 2 counters to their 1. Right? Do you see that?
Yeah.
You see how that happened there? So if you see a core, you have to respond with a core that counters it, or a support that counters it right now. You see what I'm saying? Because if you pick Brew, then they can counterpick Brew here, and then counterpick you again here. So now you're giving them 2 counterpicks. So what I'm trying to say basically is, if you don't immediately address whatever they pick, you're going to get like countered multiple times rather than once. Like that's the most base. Like it's very basic, but just think like, if whatever they pick in terms of lanes, our next pick is either going to be a support or core that responds to that. Like that's what we're going to do. And when you pick these dual lanes, say your second pick, the best option is to do something similar to what they did, where you ban like one hero that gives that hero, like say Warlock's that hero. You ban like Warlock, and then you pick this lane because it's really hard to deal with. Or you ban the one carry or one support that, like, say you want to pick Sand King Brew here. Like, say your second pick and you want to go Sand King Brew. You just say, between your offlane and support player, you say, hey guys, what support or carry hero has given you guys the most issues when you're playing these two heroes? Okay, ban that hero right here. You know what I mean? Like, ban him in the first round, then pick it. And that's great. So I think that's really, I'm gonna look at a little bit more at drafting, but I think that's about as much as I can say, simply. I think good PL pick overall. Not the best hero against Crystal Maiden because of the root and AoE, but overall it's good against the rest. So
would you say overall, if we're going for like a 2-hero opener, we should be going for second pick then?
If you have a planned 2-hero opener that you want to do almost every game, yes, second pick is better. Okay. If you plan to put 2 heroes together, you might as well pick them in immediate order. Because if you're going to pick this brew, no matter what the hell they pick, it's a waste of your resources to go first pick. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure.
You have this response pick, and if you're going to use it on the same thing every game, you might as well just take second pick.
Cool.
So yeah. And definitely, to some extent, you want to plan your drafts differently, first and second pick. Like, in second pick, it's better to pick heroes that are hard to counter, because you get countered a lot, and then you have an absolute last pick. So you want heroes that don't get shit on, and then one hero that's going to carry the game. That's how second pick works. In first pick, you pick strong lane matchups, because you have 2 counter picks. And then the one hero that is going to get countered last, say like you haven't seen their mid laner yet, you just pick some mid laner that doesn't lose.
Yeah.
Or it is a comfort hero, and then you ban the one hero that beats it really hard. Like, if you want to pick Lina because your mid laner loves playing Lina, you just ban TA. Or if you want to pick Ember, you can ban, Monkey King or Odie or something, something like that. Something that counters Ember. That's my point, though, is that's how both sides can be approached. You can probably review that later. But, okay.
Cool.
So, looking at this. So you guys are doing the Sand King Brew, you're doing PL. Stick first, interesting. Not flaming. I think usually you want mangoes and then buy the stick later, but I can see the reasoning.
Yeah, I was trying to be creative.
Yeah, no, I see it. Do you guys not share tangos with mid?
Not usually.
You should get in the habit of it. I mean, I usually say, like, if pro players do it, you should just probably blindly follow it if it's something pretty simple. I don't, like, if it's something like conceptual, like timing pushes and shit, that's a little different. But if it's sharing tangos with mid, get in the habit of giving your mid 2 tangos from either the 5 or the 4. It's going to change your items, and it should. You should know how to play the way that the optimal players play, you know what I mean? Maybe you don't do it as well as them, but if you're playing the game with 2 extra tangos from the support role, what if you actually make it someday, Then suddenly you're like, well, shit, now I got to learn how to lane with 2 less tangos. It just, that's the example I try to get. Okay, so we're going to re-camera it up. We're going to watch a little bit of every lane. I think in this bracket, like, meaning as long as it's basically not the highest level of professional play, is what I'm going to clarify there. I think as long as you have, like, a not awful draft, it's absolutely fine. Like, if it's comfort zone heroes and it's just not terrible, then it's fine. Like, in this game, I don't think either draft is particularly better than the other. We just got to make sure in general, like, as long as your drafts aren't far worse than theirs, that's the main things I focused on with your drafts I've already mentioned. So I'm not going to talk too much more about the draft here. The main thing I want to look at is, so let's just kind of fast forward as the lanes play out. Do you want me to focus on a specific lane? It is hard to evaluate lanes, like if I'm watching all 3. Is there one you want me to focus on in this specific game that you feel like caused you issues?
I mean, I can definitely say, just from my own perspective, that I didn't know how to handle the Beast Sky dual lane.
Yeah, so the problem with... So Stick is really nice, I guess. Like, it gives you this extra regen, but it just doesn't compare to going double Tango, Salve, Mango. Because you can get Stick from the side shop, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those where maybe if you go those items, you'll miss 5 Stick charges, but then you have 3 Tangos and a Salve in exchange for 5 Stick charges. 1 Tango...
Yeah.
gives you 112 health amped, so it's more like 130 or so. The point is that, yeah, that's how I want you to think about it first and foremost from the carry perspective. Secondly, almost always in a lane like this, as a carry, and any laners, every one of you can apply this, is here, great, you have all this mana sustain. This guy hits for 4 more damage than you, and there's potentially a support that's trying to deny. Have you ever looked at PL's variance in damage?
Is it high? It's a little blurry for me. I can't make it out.
53 to 75.
Okay.
So whenever you have damage variance on any hero, you have to act like every CS is whatever their minimum roll is. Like, theoretically, if you want to perfectly CS, you have to act like you have 53 damage on PL. Sorry, that's...
Yeah.
So if I have 53 damage, this guy has 68, how in the world am I ever going to get CS? Like, it's just not possible. So who cares how much regen I have if I have 2 CS at 2 minutes? My point is, get a quelling, right? So buy all the regen, get that quelling, because you just have to. If this is like a 50 damage range hero, maybe that's different, right? Because suddenly that's not something that can just out CS you. This applies for everybody, though. Look at your base damage, look at theirs. Like, do I need that damage? Do I need more health to sustain? Like, what am I scared of?
That's good to know. I haven't looked at the variants before, so I always just look at PL and say, okay, 60-some damage. I don't need a Quelling Blade first few waves. I'll be fine.
Yeah, I got flamed on stream yesterday because I missed like 4 CS under tower on PL, and I was literally like, guys, not to look like I'm making excuses, that was all luck. Every single CS was missed because of damage variance. I'm like, well, this sucks. Like, that just terrible. So on a hero like PL, you actually just need quelling in like similarly damaged matchups, just because you just can't reliably get CS with 22 variants in damage. So, okay.
Yeah, I think this bottom lane is probably a good place to focus. This
I'm
is
gonna
where
rewind
most of our games kind of get out of hand, is this bottom lane gets some kills, and then we kind of snowball from there.
Okay.
Or our off lane does.
I'm going to watch the support, because I think almost everybody in the world right now, even top 300 players, have no idea how to fucking lane support. So I'm not saying this to flame you as a support. I think laning support has changed so much in the last 6 months compared to what it used to be, like traditionally, that people have no idea what the fuck they're doing. So let's see what you're doing here. Okay. So I'm actually going to ask the 2 support players. I assume everyone has a mic, right?
Not everybody's
the Bane's not here. The rest of us are.
The what here?
SK and
who's not here?
only the Bane is absent.
Bane's not here. Okay, so the SK's here. That's good enough. So SK player, using your 2K applied knowledge, what is your role in lanes right now? Like, if you could just give me a
babe. Zone out the Slark.
Okay.
They're like trying to mess up his ability to CS.
Okay, that's true. Absolutely. Okay, so at the end of the day, with this patch, all that matters is getting creeps. So any harass you do, any kills you do, it's all for the sake of getting more creeps than the other guy. That's all it is, right? You don't go for kills if it means you're not going to get more CS than the other guy. You don't harass the guy if you're missing 3 CS. It just doesn't matter right now, because creeps are so important. Like, if they get denies, it doesn't matter. Like, 3 denies are more than a kill. Like, it's just how it is. So my point is, I actually liked your items. You bought a pretty good amount of regen. You bought a stout shield. So what problem may I have with what you're doing right now?
I'm too far back in the lane.
You're playing too passive. Exactly. So I'm not meaning to interrupt you. It's just like, since you answered correctly, I'm going to basically go on from there. I apologize. So my thing is that if you buy all this regen, you're telling me, and stout shield, you're telling me your job is to contest and be up in their face, like you said, interfere with the CS, and also draw attention away from your core player. A lot of the times what a support can do is alleviate damage. Like, just make it so the damage that would be going into the core is going into you. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, you have all this regen, you have this stout, you have the right items. Play like a man, like sit in front of their faces. You shouldn't, this Slark should not, theoretically, like, we're talking perfect, so this is what you're striving for. This Slark should not hit a single creep without you contesting it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your ideal goal to strive for. So, like, you should be here. And even if you don't get the deny, make it that much harder for the guy. The guy's already trying to out-CS 35, 56, 76 worth of damage. Make it 128. You know what I mean? Like, make it that, So that's the point. Is the main emphasis I already see right now. Just a little too passive. Okay. Good deny, good team deny. But yeah, this is just accepting them getting CS. I think this is a little bit too passive. Yeah, I'm not expecting you to play like 7Ks. But if I tell you your job as a support in the lane is to be within range of every single creep they're going for, then I think that's going to change drastically what I'm seeing right here, right? And then, I think you agree, right? Just to confirm?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Just making sure you hear me.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So would you say it's correct if you're sort of like making them fight for every last hit? It seems like worst case scenario is you overextend and die, right?
Yes.
Is that sort of worth the payoff of making it hard for them to get all this 3 CS?
So here's how it works, okay? If what's going to happen is, if I tell you to do all these things you're not used to doing, guess what's going to happen? You're going to mess up a bunch of random stuff that you're doing correctly. Meaning, like, say you're generally correct at making sure you don't overstep. But because the reason why you're not overstepping is because you're playing way too passive. So what's going to happen is I tell you to play more aggressive. You're going to start playing more aggressive, and then you're going to overstep because you're not used to playing that aggressive. Okay? So basically, the reasoning that you would be giving to counteract my point, I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but the only counterexample to my point is you're basically not trying to push your limits in order to not die. And which means you're not going to get any better, is basically what I'm saying. So you're going to die randomly because you overextend, but that's not necessarily because you're doing things like you're doing things, meaning it's not because you're being too aggressive. It may just be because you're not familiar with the situation and you didn't realize you were dying because you're so busy trying to deny. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're busy focusing on things that you're not used to focusing on, you're gonna randomly not realize you're at half health or have no mana. You're actually just gonna space on random things that you should know because you're so focused on things you're not used to doing. So, like, a great practice for you guys is every single creep that's not, like, under tower, you're within range to try to deny it. Like, this creep should be getting... You should be, like... Okay. Here's how I look at it. This applies to both of you, not just the support. This creep right here, what's... Like, to be honest with you, what's stopping you from sitting right here? What are you afraid of?
There isn't anything stopping me. I think I was worried about the tower range on that.
Okay.
But
so, do you guys have this setting on, all of you? Holding Alt shows tower range.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I want to make sure each one of you has that setting, because when you're in this situation, another mechanic to practice is simply hold Alt and see where tower range is, right? And make sure you're standing outside of it. That's fine. I'm fine with that fear. Like, you know, that everyone's gone through this issue at some point ever. So, my point would be that why is it really good for you to be here? And the answer is because what if Slark attacks you right here? What happens if he attacks you right now?
He probably misses the range CS.
He's just going to miss the creep. Exactly. So every time they're going for CS, if you're contesting them, you're presenting them with a choice to attack you or the creep, right? And then what happens is you're going to find yourself in all kinds of situations, all kinds of random outcomes, and you'll learn when to contest and when not to. Because sometimes, you know, you get the deny, but then you lose 500 health, and you're like, shit, that wasn't worth it. Sometimes you get the deny and take 2 right clicks, and you're like, oh, that's fine. And you're going to learn a bunch of times where it was good, or it was like worth it or not to deny that creep. Or to try to deny the creep. The point that I'm trying to make is if you don't push the limit, you don't at least try, you're never going to learn. So I see this here. So I want to make sure you guys, you know, do your best, especially if you guys scrim at all. I don't know if you do. If you ever do, or maybe you're playing matches against players that you know is maybe a weaker team. One of those 2 options. Really push the limits. Especially if you know the players are weaker than you, don't be afraid to mess up because you'll still be able to win the game if you fall behind. Like, if you're playing against players that you think are better than you, or at least similar, you know, you have to usually try to play exactly within your comfort zone. If anything, the thing that in this stage that you guys can practice, even if you don't scrim, go duo queue with the 2 of you on these lanes. You don't need to be in a team atmosphere to pick Sand King Brew and practice this dual lane. You know what I mean? You can just be in a pub with 2 of you and practice the dual lane and make sure you guys are going for every single creep. Communicate when you're going for creeps. Like, communicate, hey, guys, go for this deny. Hey, I'm going for this CS, like, you stun him, or, you know, stuff like that. You'll get, if you guys are constantly doing the same lane partners, which is probably better, it even happens popularly at high levels, then you guys can get on the same communication of communicating when you're killing creeps, when you're going for denies, when you're going for kills. And this is a situation where this lane's now suddenly hard because this Slark has 11 denies, right? And you guys have a lot less than 11. And that just boils down to a lot of the CS that we've seen that you're just not contesting. So our goal for you, from learning from this experience, is look at this exchange happening here. Why did you lose it?
Because he had a lot of stacks on him.
He's a level they're level 3. Yeah. You're level 2. It's not even... it is obviously stacks happen, but like he's winning the trade because he has all 3 abilities, and you're level 2. I mean, it's just how it is. What if you had extra evasion and a free crit? Maybe you turn that fight. Maybe you just don't die. Whatever it is, it's going to look completely different. My point is that these giving up these early CS like for free, I'm not saying I expect you to win every lane in terms of CS. I just want you to do your best to contest every single creep. And that's what you're striving to do. And then over time, you'll slowly get a bit better at it. In terms of mid lane, let's just rewind a bit and see what happens here. And then we'll move on from the landing stage. Just initial impressions. With carries, it's almost always itemization. I'm telling you right now, even today I've been seeing it. Like, almost always why the lane goes worse than it should, items. You saw it in this game as well. So this is obviously a disadvantageous matchup for you. Not a good matchup. Let me reroll. This is just awkward. So let's, what are you buying here? Okay, you're almost to a bottle. That's fine. Okay, so as a mid laner, this applies to all players, but I really want you, just for laning stage purposes, your main focus should be creep aggro. It's something I emphasize to a lot of players, but it's most important in the mid lane. It's kind of like one of those things, like I said in the draft, you know, drafting for lane, drafting for team fight, and all that stuff, it all matters, but in every patch it's different. Like, what matters more, lanes, team fight, whatever. And in terms of creep aggro and these mechanic type things, it matters for everybody, even supports, but it matters the most for mid laners in general. So, in general, like in this lane, the reason why creep aggro is so important is because you can't walk within range of this Monkey King, right? Like, you don't want to trade with him. So, what creep aggro does, in general, is it repositions creeps. That's what it does. So, it repositions creeps, and then at the most advanced level, it changes when they're going to die. So then you can mess up the enemy CS, or make it so that the CS timing's better for you, whatever. But at the most basic level of creep aggro, which is what you can use here in any matchup like this, you're just dragging creeps towards you to pull them away from the Monkey King. Do you know the mechanics of creep aggro, or no?
If you attack click on an enemy hero within a certain range.
Within 500. If you want to practice a bit, go into a private lobby with cheats on. I think it's like Dota display display. Okay, something rangefinder. You can probably Google it. Something like Dota game display rangefinder, something like that. 500, and you can just practice in a private lobby, like with a bot or whatever, and you just A-click the bot, and your goal is, right, you want to stay as far away from this Monkey King as possible. So ideally, if you're getting really good at creep aggro, you will aggro the creeps as close to 500 range as possible. You know, you'll be at 450 or 475, so that means you don't have to walk any closer than that to the Monkey King. So that's a great thing to practice. It's mainly useful... It's useful in advantageous matchups, but our goal is, if you're in a disadvantageous matchup, to make it not as bad, because it's much less punishing if you don't use proper mechanics in favorable matchups than it is to not use proper mechanics in a bad matchup. So overall, you're obviously CSing fine. I'm just saying that it could be slightly better that you avoid like the times that he's gone on you a bit by pulling the creeps away from this guy.
Yeah, makes sense.
So okay. Aside from that, once we get to 5 minutes. Right. Everything else looks pretty... Nothing alarming. I think creep aggro is like... It's one of those where I always look at laning like this, and for carry, if you don't have the right items, like if you can't CS, who cares how else you're playing the lane? So that's why that's really all I mentioned to you. In this case, if you're not creep aggroing, that's the first step. So it's all like, this is what you have to do next. If you want to move on to other things. For you guys, if you're not within range of denying every single creep, there's so many things that you could learn that I can't actually describe to you because it's not happening in the lane. Like, it's just not there. So all I'm telling you guys is, like, just remember Dota's all about one thing at a time. And, you know, always feel free to come back and say, you know, what after, you know, like, if you say, hey, I was the guy from coaching session, I feel like I've got creep aggro down, what's next? So, you know, something like that. Feel free. Those are the kind of questions I have no problem briefly answering in chat. Because it's, you know, once you move on from that. Okay, so, 5 minutes in, you guys picked up the bounties. Looks like both teams got both. That makes sense. Items are fine. At this point, just the order of items. Generally, that's something I see very common with players that are, like, trying to get better, but they just, you know, they're not there yet, is that they build the right items, it's just the wrong order.
Most games I start 2 tangos south. I was just trying something
You were trying to adjust?
For the
yeah, I've done that. You basically outplay yourself.
Exactly.
I've done that. Okay. You guys killed Beastmaster here?
I think we did get some kills on him at one point.
He... Oh, they killed... Oh, I thought I saw Beastmaster. Oh, Crystal Maiden died. There's stuff going on here. Okay. So let me watch how this is about. Okay, so you guys, they pulled. You're contesting the pull camp. So this is what you're talking about, where you guys get these snowballing kills. Okay. I'm gonna find a regenerate. Nope, yeah, I can see it. Okay, so let's move on. So I don't particularly mind the soul ring. The one thing I want to say is, so how do I word this? Making sure this is for everybody. Bottle provides you a little bit of health and mana. Ring of Health provides you with only health. Soul Ring provides you with all the mana you could want, but you usually have some health issues. So I look at this lane and I'd say that with Soul Ring, just by default, I would think you're going to be missing health. Like, almost always. And I don't like that in general, in any lane. So, like, in this lane, if you're I'm giving you... I named all the regen items just to... Because that's when you're thinking of regen or sustain in a lane, you just need to know your options. You know what I mean? So if I go Soul Ring on these type of heroes, and I see this, what item should I have gone?
You're more bottom.
Yeah, should have gone for bottom.
Yeah, right? So that's my point, is that's something you can adjust for yourself. A lot of offlaners build either Soul Ring, Bottle, or like Vanguard or something, you know? And then sometimes they'll go like Ring of Health and a stick, you know, whatever. Like, the point is, always try to self-reflect on whatever regen item you bought, and then what your health and mana looked like in lane. It's most common on offlaners. Like I said, this is another mechanic that applies in all 3 lanes, but it's most common on offlaners. And so my point is, just think about it. Like, if you see this, you know, that should have been a bottle. If you see where you have full health and no mana, but you have a bottle, probably should have been a Soul Ring. You know, just another example. Okay. Moving on from that little thing. It's just like, it's times where I can tell you will die because you're missing a 4th health. Like, you're just weakening yourself by a 4th of your net worth. That's how I try to explain it in my last session. And I hate to see you like this. So, in any lane, on any heroes, if you cannot actively contest CS, do whatever it takes to be able to, and then come back. Whatever time you spend going to regen is way more efficient than just sitting here letting this guy CS on any lane. So if that means flying yourself a salve, do it. Like, if you're the PL right now, you know, I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're flying yourself a salve. No, no courier use. Make sure you have full health. if you're this, where should you go right now, for instance?
Clarity.
What?
Clarity, and then maybe.
No,
a salve.
I'd say TP to Shrine, and then come right back.
Oh, okay.
Like, you have health and mana issues, and the problem with your situation is, the reason why his is solvable by a salve is because if he salves, he'll be ready to go in 5 seconds. If you salve in Clarity, you still have to wait, like, 20 seconds before you really feel comfortable trading, because then you're just going to blow your Clarity, right? So my point is, do whatever in your situation is fastest. Almost always the ideal situation is shrining. So if any of you have this issue where you're missing like half health, half mana, whatever, and there's a shrine available, go do it. Like, if you guys get this kill, like, however I say it is, whenever you take an objective, whenever you get kills, this applies in the entire game, for all of you, always try to reset as quickly as possible to resume what you were doing. Here's how objectives and kills work. You basically strayed away from whatever you would be doing normally to do that. So now your job, after you get the kills or objectives, is to go back to what you were doing as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible. So this is an example where this problem should have been addressed technically right after you got these kills. So my point is, if you get kills, what did I say the purpose of kills was? Anybody want to be the smart guy in class here?
To stop someone from getting CS.
Right? It's to benefit you getting more CS than them, right? So if you get these kills, and you guys both have this health and mana, absolutely fine you win for these kills. I'm not telling you to not go for these kills. You have 13 seconds before this guy's alive again. You know what I mean? Like, run to the shrine, then come back. In an ideal world, if the lane's like right here, sometimes what you can do is like kill a creep wave and shove it into their tower and then leave. But in this case, where it's kind of just sitting here, it's just like an equal creep wave, I would just go shrine and come right back. Because the point is, the worst thing in this meta that you can possibly do in any lane is get a kill, okay? 2 kills even, and have it look like this. Right here.
Yeah, it seems like that happens so often where a kill just loses you control of the lane.
Yeah. And I actually, if you watch my old coaching session from today, I think it was the Medusa session. Maybe it was, I think it was the Medusa session. I showed a replay of my Bristleback game, where they killed me, and I was like, lol, and I came back to lane and had free farm. Like, because they used all of their health and mana to kill me, and then I just came back with full mana. And I, even on stream, said, that was a good death. Like, I don't even care. And the point is that if you go for these kills, just know how important it is that you come right back as soon as possible. So even if it ends up being maybe you shouldn't have gone for the kill, in this case I think the kill was fine. I just think you had to go immediately shrine and then come back. Because remember, like I said, emphasis to all of you, when you get these kills, when you get these objectives, remember what you wanted to be doing. If you weren't doing that, which in this case it's the laning stage, so you just want to be hitting creeps, to do whatever it takes to get back to doing that as soon as possible, as quickly as you possibly can, whatever way that, you know, can be imagined to you. Because sacrificing this control where you have little resources, like very low mana in this case, it's just not acceptable. Like, you just can't let it happen. You can't be content with this scenario. Okay, so the Sand King rotates top, so you guys kind of like take this kill, and then... So this is something where I think what would be great is if, instead of going back to base, for instance, just think about this faster. You both shrine, maybe you both go back bottom, and then at some point you see an opportunity to TP top. But instead you like TP or walk all the way back to base, and then you TP top, and then what that means is your options are limited. Do you see what I'm saying? Your way gave you one option. The immediately shrine option gives you 2 options. So like that's, and it's always good to have options, as any role, especially supports in this stage in the game. It's just like similar to if you TP back to your safe lane as a carry, what are your options for farming?
It's pretty much only your safe lane.
It's your safe lane. So if you're TPing to your own safe lane, you better damn well know you can farm that lane. Because if you can't, you ain't got nothing else. You ain't got shit. So it's just the same idea.
I think I made the mistake in both of the games we played, because they were both against a Beast Sky dual lane, of not respecting level 6. on those two heroes and
Yeah.
TPing to lane when they had it.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it here actually. Yeah. Sky's not quite 6, but Beast is already 6.
Yeah, I think. I,
And this
I,
is an important realization. It's a more advanced concept, but as a carry, it applies, like I said, to any role, but more so carry. Is that if you have a lane that you can't enter, you have to think about what. Most of the time, if you can't enter a lane, it's because you can't possibly out-trade them, or because they can just kill you. And that's something where every time you go back to a lane, every time you're TPing to it, you're walking to it, you have to think about that. You just have to think, like, what's it going to look like? And you have to do your best guess. You have to do your best, what is the educated guess on, what am I returning to? And when I look at this kind of lane, I think to myself, the minute these two heroes get 6, I don't really know any carry in the game that can be there. So my entire approach to the lane is what? Like, before they get 6, what's my entire thought process on my items, my laning? What is it?
I'm not sure if this is correct, but I'm guessing what it is just get as much farm out of the lane as I can to be ready to rotate to enemy safe lane before offlaner 6.
Exactly. Get as much as you need to not have to be here when they're 6. Okay? Yeah. Or be strong enough in certain matchups. Sometimes, like, if you get a certain item or level or something, you will actually be good enough to contest the lane if they're 6. But, like, in this case, that's obviously not. Yeah. My point, though, is that should be your primary concern. You need to think, like, as a carry especially, when does my laning stage end? And it's usually based on the enemy's levels. Usually it's based on theirs. So that should affect your items, your way of playing the lane. Are you playing for more denies or CS, that kind of thing? But yeah, that's just something to consider. Another little point. Because this is something where I immediately say, wow, like, are you a masochist? Why are you level 6 PL who can jungle TPing into a Beastmaster Sky?
Yeah, do you think the optimal move here would have been to jungle?
I would say the optimal move... Oh, you roared a creep and you still died. I would say the optimal move would be to walk bottom. Okay. The reason why it's not optimal to TP bottom is because if you TP bottom and they can maybe just leave the Beastmaster top and then bring both supports and a Slark bottom. Are you fucked?
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why you walk there in these type of circumstances is because if you're walking away from the danger, and then if they bring the danger to you, you TP away.
Yeah.
But if you TP there, and then they bring the danger to you, then what?
I'm done.
The only time you can actually TP to lanes is basically no matter what the enemy team does, you plan to be on that side of the map. That's the only reason that any hero can really TP to lanes. But
that's true for supports and cores.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying it. These, like I said, that concept mainly applies to carry, but it applies to everybody to some extent. So yeah, that's a death that is completely avoidable. I saw that you guys like dove mid and you got a kill with the Brewmaster ulti. Okay, so another concept, right? So you guys get this kill. Where is it here? Okay, so you guys got the kill. I hate Monkey. We're gonna reload the game. Sorry.
Good old Dota.
I actually can't take it. It's only Monkey King. I don't know why it does that shit. Okay. Good old beta. It's free game, no bitch. Okay, moving on. So you guys get the kill. And so, you have an intention behind the kill. I don't mind the rotation. You got your 6. Like, as an offlaner, obviously the best question to ask yourself is, when do I want to do something? Once I do it, or once I want to do something, where am I doing it? Ask yourself that every game. Maybe you already know that. Just a good question to ask yourself every single game. If I'm an Axe, when am I rotating? I'm asking you now.
I'm asking you to get blink. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. When you said you get blink, right? So
Yeah.
Until then, it doesn't mean you could never leave your lane. It just means it's a very big decision to choose to leave your lane, because then you're going to delay your blink and your impact and all that stuff. Brew's a little bit different, right? You knew that. You get 6, you can do something. So you went and looked to do something. Good, fine. My point is, every game, ask yourself, when can I do something? What do I want to do with it? Do I want to go mid? Do I want to pressure the carry? What do I want to do? Make sure you ask yourself that question, and we're Gucci. Okay.
Do you think it was a good decision to go mid instead of help top?
I think that's fine. I think when I deal with stuff like Beastmaster, Your two choices are to oh my god. Your two choices are to confront it head on or to deal with it elsewhere. And so usually the answer to that question is primarily you have to ask yourself, what lane will I change the dynamic drastically? And I feel like if you go top and you kill Beastmaster with your ult, what happens after your ult runs up? Like, what's the next minute going to look like?
Kind of just goes back to how it was.
Exactly, right? But if you kill Monkey King, that actually drastically changes the dynamic of Ember Monkey King, right? Because Monkey King's pretty strong against Ember alone, but then Ember can kill Monkey King with help, which you did. So that's why, in this case, I like it. Because the only difference here is, though, I'll give you a little quiz question. When you kill somebody, what are they going to do when they respawn?
Come right back. Yeah, we stuck around a little bit too
They're
much.
going to go somewhere, okay? So what your goal is, let them provide you with that information. Back off. They're not showing anything. That guy just respawned. Great habit to get into. When their powerful heroes are respawning, like, apply pressure in lanes, which means, like, have creeps at their tower, and then back off. Because, and then wait for them to show you what they're doing. Because they're going to show you very quickly, right? Like, the Monkey King's going to show up somewhere. If he goes bottom, right back to mid. He goes mid. Where should Brewmaster go?
Back bottom.
Bottom or top. One of the two. It's fine either way. You can go to either side lane. In this case, it's kind of like PL saying, when I'm up, I'm going to go here. You know? And that's something you guys can communicate. It should be... It's oftentimes the three cores, the main communication you guys need to have is one of you needs to be a strong, aggressive hero on this point in the game. So, if you had to guess, guys, which hero is that?
Brew.
I actually think it's Ember. Like, Brew is your aggressive team fighter, but Ember's actually your aggressive, survivable farmer. Am I right? Like, I mean, in terms of farming. That's what I'm saying.
So, like, he's the one who can take enemy safe lane.
Yeah. Okay, he can take whatever he thinks is the most dangerous farm that he can take, is my point.
Okay.
There's always this tier in terms of cores, and it can... What a lot of top-tier teams even do is almost every time they'll draft... Like, a player can play a lot of different heroes, but they'll always be the one taking really aggressive farm. Or they'll always be the one taking really safe farm. There's a lot of teams that do that very similarly. Like, honestly, who's the player I'm thinking of? Why am I blanking? Oh my god. I mean, I don't know why I'm not thinking. Oh, Mineski. Sorry. If you look at Ice, he's the one taking aggressive farm every game. It doesn't matter what hero he is. Like, he actually just goes and takes the aggressive farm. My point is, you can try to assess like what hero does it best, but I think a great way for you guys to focus on your own communication is who's taking. Like, think to yourselves. You can talk about it after games too, like just for a bit. Who's taking the aggressive farm at any point in the game, and where are they going with it? You know, apply the dead lane concept if anybody, you know, knows the memes. But aside from that, you know, make sure you have this idea of who's taking the most aggressive farm, and then establish that tier list 1, 2, 3. Like, which one of your cores does that, then 2, then, you know, then 3. And that'll help you guys as a team coordinate who's doing what. Jesus Christ. Obviously, you stick around too long, doesn't work out, but that's just something we already talked about. Your Bane's taking levels top. That's fine. Sand King goes bottom. Okay. Does Yell occupy this area any better than a Sand King?
No.
Okay.
Seems
Would
like
you rather have your 1 position feed or your 4 feed?
Probably the 4.
Okay, so this should be swapped.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody here? Okay, cool.
Totally. I think I have, in general, a bad habit of just kind of like accepting shitty situations.
Yeah,
and then,
I would
like, swapping
say,
in my
to
other
be
teammates.
blatantly honest, the lower I go down in carries, like in terms of MMR, like, you know, it happens at every bracket, actually. It just, the lower you go, the more often people are content with just being in a shit lane. I'm like, wow, like, they must hate themselves. They want to be there. I don't know why. And so, moving on, though. So you're going to jungle a bit. It's kind of like one of those things where what happens oftentimes is you're like, well, shit, I can't even lane here. And then you go jungle. And then you show up and you're like, please don't kill me.
What I was trying to do here was apply the idea of like only showing up to lane to push it away from tower, and
Which
then
was
go to
good.
jungle.
which was good.
They probably could have punished me though.
Why? Yeah, I think they could have killed you, first and foremost. This is an example where, like, if better players, like, I think that they went and ganked your Sand King. They should have been killing you.
Yeah.
What happens is if they get a kill here, they get a tower. If they get a kill here, they get a kill. So your goal is you need to think, what's their objective, right? It's always this tower. Almost always. It's either this one or this one. So if their objective's this tower, and you feed them a kill around here, you're also not only giving them a kill, you're giving them an objective. If you're here, they're getting just a kill. So the last thing you want to do is present one of your most valuable heroes in the most dangerous place on the map, so you are then giving the triple whammy. A kill on your carry in the safe lane where they take a tower. If your Sand King is top, then their option is to gank a support and try to get a tower, or gank a carry. But if you put your carry top, they get it all in one, right? They get everything in one. And like that will help you in general, but you just don't want to give them ideal options. Luckily, you know, no offense to these guys, is they chose you gave them the perfect option and then the shit option, and they took the shit option. So, like, that worked out. You know, it's not supposed to work out, but it did. But yeah. In general, I will tell you, on PL specifically, sometime around 10 minutes to 15, you will migrate to here, and you will stay here for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think I was thrown off this game because I'm used to having, like, Diffusal at 14, and I didn't have it, so I didn't think I could fight anybody.
Yeah, you're not trying to fight anybody. This whole thing, aspect of PL, is what keeps him alive is the enemy's lack of reach, his ability to disengage with Doppel, right? Like, they just, once you Doppel, they can't continue to chase you. So, that's what makes him powerful. So the way, like, in order to farm, that's what enables him to farm, is what I'm trying to say. So the reason why you usually play this part of the map is Doppel escape doesn't do shit if you're underneath your tower. But if you're constantly pushing the lane into their tower and then backing off, that Doppel disengage actually offers you a lot. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why heroes like PL play a lot here. But a hero like Bristleback, as I mentioned earlier in my coaching session, they'll often play the safe lane because they're not escape heroes. They're just a wall that's trying to prevent them from taking your tower. So you know,
it's super stressful to dive Bristle under tower.
Yeah,
and you don't really care.
Exactly, right? You'd rather dive a PL than chase him over here, but you'd rather gank a Bristle right here than underneath his own fucking tower, right? You'd rather him be alone here and you 5-man him, but if he's here and you 5-man him, you just get like 4 TPs in and you all lose 80% of your health to Quills and then you die. So it's just a matter of, that's something that concept can be applied generally to every hero in the game. You just want to think about, you know, where would they rather be, the hero defending or the hero pushing? Generally, the only time PL wants to ever stay in the safe lane is when he can do what I said he wants to do here. And that's very rare. It's very rare, by the way. It's, like, very uncommon. It doesn't matter if you're having a good or bad game. Very rarely do you want to ever be here still. If you're having a bad game and you feel like you can't pressure this area, then you should be here. That's...
in the jungle.
Yeah, it's similar to Luna in that regard. The heroes kind of protect themselves by shoving the lane. And so if you can't be here, you're here. Because if you're gonna die here, you're gonna die here. That's like that's how I look at it. You're not more survivable. Like, this is gonna happen to you every single time. And this is what we don't want. So this should be Sand King up here being cute with his Sandstorm, trying to delay this push as much as possible, while PL is doing this. What Brewmaster's doing. Okay, so by the way, if you are the strong survivable split push hero and you're AFK jungling, this is what your team's gonna look like. I just want to be very clear. It's something that, you know, I flame 7K players for doing it. So it's something that you're not going to learn overnight, and you're not going to, you know, it's a long process to perfect. But if I bring to your attention that one of you is always going to be the strongest survivable split pusher, and then the answer is if none of you are, that means you need to change the draft so that one of you are, you know what I mean? Then... it's on you to not be on your side of the map. If you are the strongest hero on your team in regards to farming, like if you're the most powerful farmer and you're taking the safe farm, ask yourself, where is everyone else supposed to farm? And then go ahead.
I was trying to wrap my head around what sort of like the optimal configuration is here. So coming out of like 10, 12 minutes when we're a little bit behind from all the lanes, it sounds like we want to have Ember shoving in bottom.
I'd say
Sand
Peel,
King.
this is actually safe. This is safer
Okay.
than these two lanes. So generally speaking, what hero on your team doesn't die to Skywrath Mage Beastmaster?
I mean, like maybe Sand King.
You all die. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe he can delay it, and maybe he's the least valuable hero of all the heroes you want to farm. Right now, until Brew had Blink, you actually needed farm on this, and this. You needed farm on all four of you, right?
Yeah.
So if you need farm on all four of you, you have two choices when you have these type of lanes, these Beastmaster Sky lanes. What do you think those two choices are? One of them's the Sand King. What's the other option? You actually have
leave the
three.
lane.
You have three choices. Sorry, so
Maybe you
Sand
like
King,
5-man the lane.
leave lane, or 5-mana. Dead lane concept in a nutshell. Throw a support there to stall as long as possible. One option. Abandon the lane altogether. Second option. 5-man gank them with smoke. Third option. That's their 4-man maybe. And that's going to revolve around your ults and shit. And usually, like, if you have Brewmaster ult, especially if you have a blink, and you feel like this lane's uninhabitable, and you're like, guys, I have nowhere to farm. Or PL wants to farm here, and then this lane's pushed in. Now, where does Ember farm? He wants to be here, but he can't be alone. Then, okay, we have to fucking kill these guys, you know? My way of addressing, like, if you try to wrap your head around where people are supposed to be farming, and you're like, one of us is supposed to be here, but none of us can go there. That's when you smoke and shit. That's why teams make movements. They literally say to themselves, one of us is supposed to be here, but we can't. So let's go kill somebody and make it happen. You know what I mean? That's generally the idea behind it. Like, if you ask yourself where you're supposed to be farming, and there's something inhibiting you from farming, that will also help you, even at the 2K level, to try to assess what movements as a team you guys can make. It's like, oh, we need somebody farming safe lane, nobody's there, let's go smoke and kill the guy. Or nobody can be there, let's go smoke and kill the guy that's stopping that. In this case, I think Monkey King or Beastmaster will do just fine. Beastmaster's a hero that, just to give you a very brief concept, generally he applies a lot of pressure here. The guy, if he was doing better, would have already taken this tower. And then this area becomes uninhabitable by one hero. Like, you usually, the only way you can only get into your own jungle is by smoking into it and then killing him. On top of that, the reason why in my pub the other day I picked Bristle was I literally looked at their lineup. They had a Beastmaster, Willow, I think, but either way, it's like a Beastmaster plus a support, and it's like, my whole idea was, I know that's what Beastmaster wants to do, in terms of, I know he wants to take this tower and then make it really hard for anyone to go here, so I'm going to pick a hero that's a fucking wall that doesn't let him take my tower. Even if I die 4 times for it. Say I'm a Bristleback, and I'm farming continuously, and I die 4 times, but that Beastmaster's stuck up here the entire time, never gets my tower, think about what that does for everyone else. Right? If you don't have that one hero that stops this Beastmaster, then you're just going to take turns feeding. Like, you know what I mean? You're either going to leave the lane entirely or you're going to take turns feeding. So even at the most basic level, what you can try to do is, especially if you guys know the hero, say, you know, it looks like you've played a lot of Brew, you ask yourself, you know, I think Brew always wants to rotate mid, or he wants options. So if they first round Brew, if he wants to be able to rotate to mid or safe lane, what can you do about that in your draft? Any guesses? Sorry if I'm being too...
We pick wall heroes mid and safe lane.
You pick what? Oh, you could pick walls, but what's his way of, like, forcing the objective mid? What did you guys do?
Split. Use his ult.
Yeah, he killed you, though. Like, or you killed him, right? So, what if you just pick a mid and safe laner that don't die to Brew Split? Like, what if they pick Weaver, safe lane, Quap mid? Who does Brew gank?
It's just Yeah, you're just out of place pretty much.
Exactly, right? My point is, you guys, the concepts I'm giving you, you can try to apply on your own heroes, like the ones you know best, because the only way you're going to expand these concepts is to first really understand them on the heroes you love playing, because you know those heroes the best. And so if you can understand, though, like, oh, my hero, you know, when I play Brew, I'm always looking to rotate when I get 6. So games become really hard when I have no one to kill when I'm 6. Okay, so if we're gonna ban when we want a first round pick Brew, maybe we ban heroes that make that difficult. If they pick Brew, maybe we pick heroes that make that difficult. You know, do you guys get what I'm going for here? Do you like, that's something you can slowly advance in your knowledge. So I don't expect you, because even I don't, to understand every single hero in the game at this level, or like even remotely at this level. The thing is, I have to do it at a speed that 7K players do. If we can get you guys understanding these concepts at even like a 3K level, you'll just shoot up in MMR. You know what I mean? Like you just have to do it better than your MMR is right now. So, and it's like I said, these things are all slow processes. So, you know, I'm not saying be 7K about it overnight. Just be better than the people you're playing with. So my idea, though, is just keep in mind these things. When you're playing your heroes, how do you want to play the game? What makes it hard for you to play that way? And that will help you with your own bans. That will help you, like, if you know you're a hero that wants to go to the opponent's safe lane, and there's something stopping you from doing it, you're like, guys, we gotta fucking kill this guy or something. You know, like, it'll help you, not only with the bans and the draft and everything, but it'll also help you, like, give you some sense of direction of what you guys need to do as a team. And it'll just make things decision-making wise a lot easier. So, the way I try to look at it is when you have these Beastmaster type heroes, if you're getting a lot of pressure on your top half of the map, there's two places to make movements. Either at this stage, like there's a lot of pressure on your top half. Either go to your own side of the map and kill them like you just did, or make a move on their safe lane. That's the two options you have. So I don't mind that you guys did this. But if you're going to make these movements, really try your best to make them organized. And what I mean by that is, say, hey guys, like if you're Brew. So the person that makes these calls, by the way, is the hero that starts shit. So if Brew has no blink and Sand King has no blink, who's probably making the call?
Maybe Ember.
Ember or Bane. Like, I think Ember's fine, but Ember or Bane, right? Because those are the two heroes without blinks that actually can start fights or ganks. So any call made before those blinks should be Bane or Ember saying, hey, man, like, Bane be like, hey, I have grip, I want to go kill this guy. And then you say, well, if I'm going to kill this guy, who helps me best? Okay, Ember, come with me. We'll go kill this guy. Obviously, Bane's not here, but maybe relay the message. If you're Brew, and you're like, hey, I have blink now, it should be you saying, I have blink, I want to go do this. And then you say, I need a smoke and these heroes with me, and I want to kill this guy. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's a Brew, you know, even if you have a blink, you're not killing Slark. Right? Like that,
Right.
That hero's not going to die to you with a blink. But you kill everyone else, so you just say, hey guys, I have a blink, let's go kill anyone, it's just not Slark. So you see Slark bottom, okay, let's go top. I'm just giving you, like, a thought tree, you know, like this decision-making tree of, you know, how you can come to these conclusions. It's not something that, like I said, comes overnight, because it takes a lot of practice. It takes a little, like, here and there, you think about these things slowly but surely, and you just get better at it. And the goal is a decision that would have taken you 20 seconds today, maybe in 3 weeks it'll take you 5 seconds or 10 seconds. You know, you'll just do it slightly faster. Because all Dota is, as you get up in the MMRs, as you slowly climb the bracket, is everything's done slightly faster. So that's all it is. So the decisions that you have 20 seconds to make, I have 2 seconds or 1 second. That's just how it is. Like when I played against better teams in the closed qualifiers, a perfect example is I was trying to captain in the open quals, and I feel like I did a pretty good job. And then suddenly I'm playing against these better teams, and all the stuff I'm trying to organize on this disorganized team that has no practice together, I have 3 seconds to do it instead of 7. And it's like, shit. You know, like, I'm just not good enough as a captain to pull that off. So it's just like one of those things. I'm just giving that as an example. So you guys get the kills. So, training, mindset. After kills, what's the play?
objectives.
Okay. Is there an objective to take right now?
Only if we all TP bot or something.
Okay, so the answer is no, right? Like, there's nothing right in front of your face. So, what do?
Reset.
Reset
Research.
with resources. And what did those kill? Why did you guys kill those guys? What were they doing that you killed them to stop them from doing?
Taking control of the top lane.
Okay, so by the time they're alive, to the best of your capabilities, all of you should try to have mana and health. And what else should happen?
We should have pushed out top lane.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's the idea of knowing why you kill somebody. Maybe you end up doing this. So my idea is, who needs to farm the most? I kind of spoiled it.
Yeah.
Try again. I'm on the hero. Okay, I'm not going to be smart about it. Sand King, right? Because he's 600 gold off a blink. And at this stage, the reason why you don't put a carry here is because once they're alive, do you have any intention on staying here? On any of you? No, right? So if you bring a carry, what that means is like you would have to TP and then walk somewhere else. If you just put this Sand King with no health and mana, top, he clears it out and then bases. And that's not inconvenient for him. You know what I mean? Like, he just kills the wave, bases, resets. He doesn't have to be immediately ready like the rest of you because he's not even fight ready anyway. Like, he doesn't have what he needs. So he's going to go farm, kill the wave. Okay, mid lane's pushed in. Are you pushing this tower?
I think we started to and then realized we didn't have enough time.
Okay, so basically in the first 30 minutes of the game, if you don't get the kills at the objective itself, you're not getting the objective. Just give yourself that nice rule of thumb. Like, if you're not within 1,000 units of that objective, you're just not getting it. That's just how it is. Like, if you kill 4 people, if you're dire and you kill them right here, you're actually just not getting this. You know what I mean? So if you want this tower, the only way you're going to get it is if you get kills while this lane is pushed in and the tower is immediately available. That's just how it is. Respawn times. That's all it is. Like, people aren't dead long enough at this stage in the game. So at this stage in the game, with that in mind, that's why lane pressure and like people shoving lanes and farming properly is by far the most important thing in the entire game. Because you're not going to get any objectives if the lanes are never pushed. But then, as the game goes on, you're willing to sacrifice lane pushing in order to kill people because they're dead for like 80 seconds. So in the time they're dead, you could like walk from here and take their tier 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the difference. So that's, as the game goes on, like, lane pressure is always important, but you can prioritize kills over lane pressure because you'll get lane pressure by killing people. But in this stage in the game, like, they're pressuring constantly, so when you kill them, like, go wherever they were pressuring, deal with it as soon as you possibly, like, because this is how I look at it. Whatever these heroes were doing when they were alive, what were they stopping? What were they, what, in any game, like, not just this one, but any game, what were they preventing us from doing? Those heroes were preventing us from taking a tower? Okay, run to it. Those heroes were preventing us from farming split? Okay, like, take every lane for the next 30 seconds. These heroes were preventing us from Roshing? Go take Rosh. Whatever it is. Whatever those heroes were stopping you from doing, that will help you address, like, what you're supposed to do with the kills. And for the sake of it, sometimes you just killed them. Because you had to. Like, they were just up in your faces and you had to relieve pressure. And then in that case, which is this example, you just go relieve the pressure wherever they were applying it. Because they're dead. So, and usually you just say who needs farm the most. Obviously, one positions are very important, but Sand King's the hero that really needs his blink right now. So you guys actually do that, which, like, not to be, sarcastic, is surprisingly good. So, this is good. You clear the wave. What happened to Mr. Goofy here? He walks...
I think he was warding aggressively and got killed by Slark.
So, obviously you guys, you said what you said. Like, we wanted the mid tower and realized we couldn't get it. So, let's just be a smartass about it. Who on your team takes towers?
Only PL or Brew with split.
And do they actually kill towers like a
No.
sieging hero does? No. Okay. So on average, you have to think what your team does. What do your heroes actually do really well? I'll give you a hint. I'm referring to PL, Ember, and Sand King.
Pretty sure our team is intended to be really mobile.
Okay,
that
you're
we
very
can kind
mobile.
of just like outskill people in team fights so that we can take objectives.
Okay, so you're very mobile. So I want to emphasize this. You're very mobile, and you clear creep waves really fast with those three heroes. Like, on average, they push lanes really well. So I actually look at this lineup and say, every time you get 3 kills, they should respawn and have all 3 waves at their towers.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, right here, Sand King goes top. Who goes mid? And why?
Ember, because I can get out.
Yeah, Ember, because he can get out. Exactly. And who goes bottom?
And PL.
Okay. Nailed it. What does Brew do in this time?
Reset.
Reset.
Do you need 20 seconds to get back to base? Do you need to be ready in 20 seconds? Look at your hero, right? You don't need to be ready in 20 seconds, right? So, because that's how long they were dead is why I'm saying 20 seconds. Obviously, they're alive now. So, when the fight happened right here, you had 20 seconds. You're going to base, right? Because you need health and mana. Or you could just shrine, right? So, if you're going to shrine, what could you do over the course of the next 20 seconds?
Spend all that mana. Just jungle.
Yeah, hit these 3
camps,
creep.
pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Kill these camps, expend your mana, and reset after, right? Like, even just a little efficiency of killing 4 camps or 3 camps or 2 camps while they're dead, if all the other waves are taken care of, like, there's nothing else to do, that's a great way to make use of them being dead, is just getting a little bit extra farm. Like, obviously, I'm saying don't prioritize jungle over, like, taking a tower or something, but, like, if you can't take a tower, this is just something to learn from. So, like, look at your lineup and be like, oh, we don't have any natural tower taking. Here's an example of what I used that I learned this lesson. I was a Lycan. I didn't fully understand Lycan at the time. This actually cost us a game versus Optic when I was on VGJ. I was really far behind because we like first rounded Lycan, and then I had a bad laning stage. And I got 2 kills right here. With like a rotation with my ultimate, and we smoked and stuff, and we were Radiant. We got 2 kills right here, and the lane was like right here. The wave was. So it was like 7-8 minutes into the game. So, or maybe like 9 minutes, whatever. So they're dead for like 12 seconds. I spent the entire time they were dead trying to push this tower, and I'm like a level 6 Lycan at 9 minutes. Okay, so by the time they're alive, I've done 200 damage to this tower when I'm a level 6 Lycan in 9 minutes. Any idea of what I could have done while they were dead?
Shove in the creep wave and go jungle.
Yeah, just go hit some fucking creeps. Like, I was a level 6 Lycan in 9 minutes. What if suddenly I'm level 7.5 when they respawn? And, like, now suddenly their lane shoved in. Maybe I shove in this lane and I TP top and shove this, or maybe I just shove in this and TP here and kill these 3 camps. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
by the time, I know they're only dead for like 12, 15 seconds, but by the time they're able to do something again, I've killed 3 creep camps. So, like, if you're behind, a lot of the time, you're not going to actually get objectives. You're going to be able to get farm that you otherwise didn't have the luxury to get. Because even if you're Brewmaster and you're pretty strong, you don't have the luxury to just jungle, right, in a game like this, because if you're jungling and you have split and shit, the rest of your team's just going to be, like, dying or something, you know?
Right.
But if there's nothing else for you to do on the map, and you got some kills, you know, by all means, go hit some neutrals for 15 seconds. Like, go get yourself that little extra farm, maybe towards, like, a BKB or Eon Disc, whatever, or Vlad's, whatever you're going for. So it's just, like, that's my point, is I always try to say to myself, if I'm behind, usually it's just farm I'm trying to get. And if I'm ahead, what objectives can I get? And whoever I killed, what are they stopping us from doing in the first place? And I would say their heroes that are dead were primarily stopping you from split pushing, like farming multiple lanes. That's what they are stopping you from doing in this case. So my first reaction would be go clear other waves, as fast as humanly possible. So let me just look. Okay. Yeah, we'll go for about another 15 minutes. I just wanted to make sure I had a good accurate time. In about an hour and 15, and I apologize that I was late, guys, so we'll make sure we wrap up this. I always emphasize the early game as much as possible. I think in this patch especially it's even more important, but you know, if you don't do this stuff at this stage in the game, and the way I try to explain, I don't know how often each one of you watch the stream, the game just gets more complicated. So this is a reoccurring theme to anybody who's been here all day. Guess what? The lower MMR you go, it's usually you get to the right place. It just takes you longer. So you actually did what I thought you should do, but you did this crap for like 15 seconds. You know what I mean? So by the time they're alive, you're doing what you should have done while they were dead. So it's amazing how your instincts will naturally, just from playing enough Dota, you'll naturally bring yourself to the right place. You'll like try to do something and be like, oh, can't do that. Okay, go do something else. And our goal is over time to be able to read this shit before it happens, and that comes down to just thinking about the game, right? Like in terms, like improving your way of thinking about the game. Who did we kill? What did they stop us from doing? Split push all 3 waves. This lane's out by Sand King, correct. This lane should be out by Ember. You know, that wasn't done because you guys all tried to push. And this lane should be pushed immediately by PL. Hasn't this been a fucking struggle bus for you this whole game, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're struggle busting it up, and that's what I had to, I mean, I learned this like 6 months ago, so how can I blame you for not knowing it when you're, you know, haven't played probably nearly as much Dota as I have, is that if you're struggle busting it up, that's usually because you have no room to farm. So if you kill all these heroes that prevent you from farming, then by all means, immediately go to wherever there's fucking farm. You know, like, go. And obviously you say top, but I hope we clarified why it's almost always this lane rather than top. So yeah, continuing. The goal is, if you push all the lanes into their towers, then by the time they're alive, you're going to know exactly what they're doing. But because none of this lane doesn't have any pressure, how many of their heroes, based on your knowledge, are bottom?
We have no idea.
No idea, right? If you push this in and nobody's defending and it's taking damage, how many heroes are bottom?
0 heroes.
0, right? So you're either going to know there's 0. So if this was pushed in, you're either going to know there's like 1 or 2 heroes defending because they're showing, or you're going to know everyone else is somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as of now, this could be Monkey King Beastmaster. By the way, these guys are, if understood, you shouldn't be showing 2 cores in lane like this. The only time you ever show more than 1 core in lane is when it requires both of you in order to push the wave. This should be like Beastmaster pushing the wave while Monkey King farms behind him. Just for you guys know, like, if you're looking to push a tower, don't reveal 2 cores when you only have to show 1. Like, let the other guy be. Not only are they showing you guys more information than they need to, but they're also just not farming these 2 camps. Just as an example, whenever you're a carry and you want to play around your team, like if you like, this is just helpful for you in general. If you're the farming hero, if you're like, I kind of want to play with my team, then just farm jungle near the team. You know what I mean? Like this guy could just be farming neutrals. The reason why, just to be very advanced, I'm just going to go a little bit high here, is that the reason why the Beastmaster should show instead of Monkey King is how often has Beastmaster been showing top this game?
The whole game.
Okay, so him being top tells you what?
Nothing.
Monkey King being top, almost certainly there's a Beastmaster behind him, right?
Yeah, probably 5 heroes there.
Right,
4.
exactly. So that's something where, I mean, you guys realize that. So if we can get you to do that in your own games like that, I mean, the information game will definitely go in your favor. But okay, so moving on. Where has Ember been this whole?
Hey? Yeah, we were debating about whether to try to defend top because we didn't know what they were pushing as a group.
Okay. So my main emphasis is I obviously don't expect you guys to know the stuff that I know. But just remember that all the stuff that should have happened here, I told you before it even occurred. Right? Like, meaning, after you got the kills, I said, push out top, push out bottom, see what they're doing, and avoid them. Like, that's pretty much what I said. Why are you avoiding them right now?
Much obliged.
It is easier for them to fight us than it is for us to fight them.
Okay, I'm just going to show you. Okay,
We don't have Sled.
This. Blink wasn't online yet. Okay, so all these things combined. Your PL has virtually no farm because he's been pressured all game. Your Brewmaster has, who's probably your most powerful team fighter, doesn't have his ability. And your Sand King didn't have a blink yet. So that's the reason why I knew that you should split up, push as many lanes as possible, and then avoid them. And that's why the pressure on this lane is so important. Because then you're not left with this awkward, what the fuck do we do about this? Because the problem is when they're forcing an objective and you're not doing anything, you just have this odd of, if we don't fight them, they just get a tower. So do we fight them?
If I had pushed it 30 seconds ago, then they'd have to choose between trading their tier 1.
And then if you see 4 top, suddenly you guys are like, do we fight? And you're like, nah, I don't have Diffusal yet. I'm pushing this tier 1 for free. You know, like that's the, or not for free, but like I'm getting this tier 1. It's like, that's an example of why these little things are so important. So the main emphasis about this as a team, especially when you go for these movements, it happened at that like 8-minute gank from the Brewmaster as well. Make sure you linger very minimally. I think it was fine that you guys like pushed mid when you got the Brewmaster gank because that was like the purpose. But the reason why the Brewmaster gank allowed you to push mid is because the guy that's stopping you is dead. So the minute he's alive, by all means, stop fucking pushing mid. You know what I mean? That's just like, it's just trimming up these little transitions. And I don't expect you to do it instantly, but if we can make you get on the Brewmaster from here to here in 10 seconds instead of 20, we can get the PL to be like, oh, I didn't have a TP. Next time I should have one. I'll walk bottom and I'm going to be a little bit slow. You know, whatever. I should have TP'd. You know, you'll learn these things. You'll be like, oh, I should have been here. Oh, I'll get faster at it next time. Like, and that's what will happen. So, because you're not applying pressure, this is how Dota works. If you don't apply pressure, you just feel really awkward. They're applying pressure, you're not. Suddenly, you're stuck fighting on your side of the map. You have no split. You have no diffusal. Somehow, you get 2 for 0. By all God means, I have no idea how. I mean, I don't even look at fights like that. I mean, I guess you had a good epicenter. Now you have split, so you continue to fight. And this is something where, I'll be honest with you, it's fine that this fight went well. Why isn't there a PL here who then maybe TP's into this fight?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the same exact... I feel like that same occurrence would happen either way. Meaning, if you were here and then TP'd in, rather than just... like if you were here, here's how it works. You have a choice between pushing this or fighting. If you're here, you're either fighting or doing nothing. Like, that's the 2 choices. So, whenever your guys are playing these lane pressure heroes, these split pushers, always try to give yourself a choice. That is something you can always try to emphasize to yourself. So, if you're a split pusher, especially if you're behind, think, where's the enemy team going to go? I don't think it's a secret that they're all going to run top when they were dead, right? They have this Beastmaster. What were they doing before? Right? Like, they're just going to run right back top. So, if they're going to run right back top, and you're the split pusher who wants to give yourself a decision, you should always go not there, right? That will help you in terms of making sure you're not doing like where I said Sand King should go there and you should go here. If you're this like split pusher that wants the choice to tower pressure or show up to fights, always, go opposite of where you think the enemy team will go. Now, question, as a 2K player, is your assumption of where they're going to go always going to be correct?
No.
No, but I just care that you're making an assumption in the first place. Make an educated choice, and learn from it if you mess it up. Because I'm not even correct all the time, right? Like, I mess up this stuff too. My goal is, as everyone, is to make sure you mess up as little as possible. You get these kills? I think Brewmaster, you could have done the exact same thing, by the way. You could have just gone to these camps and shrine. But go ahead, what were you going to say?
I think my sort of decision-making process after we took that fight mid so long ago now was thinking if I went bottom and shoved, that by the time they were up, they would TP to tower and kill me. But if I know that's going to happen and I go to bottom, the second they're up, I can start TPing top or whatever, and I've wasted 5 TPs.
Exactly. Yeah, that is exactly correct. If you push in bottom before they are alive, what are you doing while they're respawning? Are you still hitting this fucking tower? While they're respawning? No. What are you waiting for?
what am I waiting for? I'm waiting to see if they TP somewhere else.
Yeah, and the minute they show somewhere else, you resume what you were doing. But in the meantime, maybe you're just hitting some neutrals.
Yeah.
You know? But when you're hitting neutrals, where do you hit neutrals near?
Where do we hit neutrals here? I guess the lane you're pushing.
The lane you want to be in. Like,
Yeah.
where do I want to be? Like I said, you know, like, I want to fight with my team, but I don't want to just sit here waiting. Then you
Right.
farm neutrals behind your team. You want to be pressuring this lane, but you don't know where they are? Farm neutrals near the lane. You know? And you say,
Yeah.
BSJ, do I farm these, or do I farm these? What's the decision behind that? Any idea?
I think it's just if I think I'm gonna die there, probably if I have a ward that can cover me.
Yeah, it's just these camps are more dangerous than these.
Yeah.
That's all it is to it. So do I feel safe enough to farm these? Why would I rather farm these than these?
Because I can get back to pushing the lane faster.
Okay, nice. We're getting past all this stuff. Okay, cool. Good talks, guys. So the one thing I want to say here is on top. Okay, so you end up going BKB. I'm glad you had Yules queued up. Just as a curiosity, this is a very important skill for everybody, but more importantly, the offlaner often. What's your job in the fight?
Initiation disable.
Okay, and what do they have to win?
They got
fights?
silences.
And they have
Brutes.
decent initiation too.
Yeah.
And can anyone else on your team go in first? What if PL or Ember go into the fight first?
Everybody blown up.
They just fucking die.
Silence, yeah.
Yeah. So your job not only is to initiate and stun, but honestly, you're more of an initiate, make sure they can't go on the rest of your team, aren't you? So
Right.
you're more of an initiation stun as your Sand King, actually. Who goes first, Brew or Sand King here?
Like brew,
Okay.
like initiate, create chaos.
Okay.
And then like follow up stun.
Okay, perfect. So, Will, you understand, based on what I just said, why I would really hate you buying a Yules?
Right.
I'm just
That's
making. I
what
know
would be.
you end up going the right item. I'm just being very clear that I want you to know past this game why it matters that these items are correct. In my game yesterday, I know people who watch my stream love hearing me flame the shit out of this Abaddon over and over again. If look at this game real quick. Try to ignore the items. Actually, okay. Okay. So, look at our lineup. What is Abaddon's job?
Take damage.
Okay.
Yep.
And from the offlaner's perspective, like, what if you had to describe what he does in a fight, what's he gonna do?
I think
I
I'm
would
gonna
say
go
run in.
First, is he going in? Okay, you're just running in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you run in as the game goes on, what? Okay, so he built Radiance, which was great. I actually think that was fine. I'm actually asking a 2K player, chat. Here we go. You weren't here for this yesterday, were you?
No.
No.
Nice. Okay. So you're, I'm not trying to be mean. You're 2K, okay? You actually seem to have pretty good knowledge so far of the stuff I've been asking you guys, actually. So, what item do you need to be able to run in? Past Radiance.
Blade Mail.
Okay, I can see it. This is a
Or like-
relatively hard question. Anybody else?
Drums.
Okay, I'm going to mention Terrorblade. Anything else?
Lincoln's.
What's
no idea.
better than Lincoln's? That also
Lotus?
solves... Okay, Lotus.
Oh,
Thank you.
Lotus,
We
okay.
got there eventually. So, if you don't have a Lotus, what happens to you when you run in? And you start weakening everybody with your Radiance.
You get like shackled and sundered and die.
You just get fucking sundered, and the Terrorblade kills you after you come out of your ult, right?
Right.
So, why would it be a Lotus instead of a Lincoln's, for instance? To prevent that same thing from happening.
They have a lot of ways to pop your Lincolns.
Okay.
The corrosive haze and stuff.
So, on what type of hero would I build a Lincoln's instead of a Lotus?
Probably a split pusher. Where you're
Or like a
only fighting
frontline
one
and
hero at a
carry,
time.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you'll
like a
see
Slark or
troll
something.
warlords or Slarks go for BKB Lincolns against Terrorblade, right? That's what they'll do. But if you're an offlaner, utility hero, you know. So guess what? I flamed the fuck out of this guy. He built this fucking Manta, and I said, "You fucking asshole! Like, this is so terrible." I was so pissed. I was so mad. I was actually so mad. Okay, what do you think happened to him in every single fight? My most powerful hero on my team.
I just got blown up.
He weakened the Terrorblade to no health and then got sundered. It happened every single fight. I was so upset. My point, though,
three
is...
Radiant Reflections instead of one.
Yes, this applies to all of you, but I'm emphasizing it to the offlaner because oftentimes your role, to some extent, is team fighting, especially if you're a brew. So, if you can blink in reliably and not get disabled, what kind of items do you build on brew?
If you want really greedy, go Radiance.
Okay.
Drums. Maybe something just with an AoE, maybe a pipe.
Okay, pipe, Vlad's, Helm of the Dominator, you know, like these type of items, right? Like the aura items, the ones that, like, even Radiance I consider an aura item, right? My point is, it's very important for you as an offlaner to ask yourself your role in the team fights, because your job, oftentimes, is to enable the rest of your teammates to be successful in team fights, okay? Obviously, to some extent, everybody needs to think that way, just like every concept I've mentioned, but this is primarily on offlaners and supports. For supports, I look at it as, what items at the bare minimum do you need to do your job? Like, I don't care if there's an item that Sand King can build that helps his PL do better if he doesn't have a fucking blink. I don't give a shit. You know, he needs a blink. But past the blink, you know, on Sand King, what item do you consider going here? Like, what are you thinking?
Molt, you're still here?
Molt?
What?
Yeah,
We're
I was
asking.
considering. Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I was considering a Crimson Guard so that I could help deal with the Beastmaster better
Okay.
and just enable.
So the way I look at this is, that's a very expensive item. Like, it's like 3,600. So the way I look at it is, it's actually a great way to approach for all of you. You Slark and Monkey King care if you're tanky.
Not really.
What do they care about in fights? What do they just simply need? It's very quite, like, you can break this down very easily. What's quite simple about Slark and Monkey King? What means they're winning the fight?
They have to be able to stick on a target.
They just be able to hit you. Like, just hit you. So, with that in mind, what item do you think?
I could have gone for Yolds and just.
Yeah, Yules, Glimmers, Force Stabs, these type of items against these heroes. Certain heroes, it's better to tank up. These heroes are like Luna, like against, I mean. Like Luna, Medusa, you know, these type of heroes that they're going to right-click no matter what. You might as well just minimize their damage. But against heroes like Slark and Monkey King, it doesn't matter how tanky you are, they're just going to kill you over time. They like Slark's like, okay, I'll hit you 40 times. I'm fine with that. You know, like, whatever.
More stats for me.
So, yeah, exactly. So those type of heroes, there's two types of cores in terms of right-clickers. There's ones that you need to tank up through their shit, and there's ones where you need to prevent them from hitting you in the first place. Quiz time. Where does Ursa go in that category?
You kite him.
Okay. Lifestealer.
Probably kite him.
Sven.
Can also kite him.
Don't get hit.
Clinks.
Don't get hit.
Okay.
That's-
We're Lone Druid.
Probably kind of go either way, I guess, but probably say tank up.
Okay. Void.
Aeon Disc.
Tank up. Yeah, just don't die to Chrono, right? All I'm trying to say is, what about PL? Do you try to kite a PL?
No, you tank up.
You build like Radiance and Shivas and Crimson.
Crimson.
And, you know, and Solar and shit that makes it hard to hit you. That's like, it's such a simple concept, but when I see people and I'm playing Lifestealer and my offlane and the opponent offlaner built a Vanguard, I'm just like, lol. Like, what? Like, I fucking feast off of how much health you have. You built a fucking Vanguard. Okay. My point is, those are little things you can ask yourself all the time. So, like, you said Crimson, like, you considered it because there's a Beastmaster, right? But, which is fine. But then you have to ask yourself, does Crimson actually do anything against Monkey King or Slark? And then your answer is, okay, usually as a supporter offlaner, if you don't need anything that enables you any further. What I mean by that is, you have your Blink, Brewmaster, you definitely need a BKB, or Aeon Disc or something. Otherwise, you're just going to blink in and die. On Sand King, you need that blink. Past that, like, whatever you need to do your job in the fights, you know, what makes either your teammates' jobs easier or makes the opponent's jobs harder. It's like, you know, if you build Lotus on the Batten in that game, that makes Terrorblade's job way harder. Like, suddenly he can't sunder the guy that's right in front of his face every fight. How's he, you know, suddenly he has to, like, look for me in the back or something, you know?
Like sunder a teammate or something.
Yeah, or sunder a teammate, exactly. It makes his job much more difficult to do. That's just another example. So that's the way I want you guys to think about items. And so far, I've, you know, from what I've seen, it's been pretty good. The main thing I have with these fights that you're taking, you have to smoke for them. You just have to. At nighttime especially, what team is advantaged at nighttime in this game? Why?
Slark has really high night vision.
Okay, there you go. So, Radiant has Hawk and Slark. So you will never win nighttime engagements if you do not smoke and ward, period. You're just not going to win, because they're going to see you before you see them. Isn't Dota all about who jumps who? Like, isn't that just what it is, right? So these are little things that you can ask yourself. I've presented you guys with like 100 things in terms of to get better at. I'm not telling you. I want you to know one thing at a time. By all means, please. Dota is a very overwhelming game. As a team especially, anything I'm mentioning as a team. These little itemization things, the things to do after kills, those are actually individual things. The only thing that really revolves around that for team play is communicating. Like, if you guys get kills and you're going to split up and farm, it's like the communication team aspect of it is like Sand King says, I'm going top, I'm farming my blink. PL's like, I'm going to go clear out bottom, and, you know, Ember's like, I'll push in one wave mid, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, and then Brewmaster's like, I want to use the shrine, anyone need it? That would be the degree of, like, communication that you would do. You know, but all that stuff is actually individual, if you know what I mean. It's on you guys individually to know that.
Like what our hero role is and where we should be on the map?
Yes, exactly. Where your hero is supposed to be placed on the map, like outside of fights, and then doing your job inside of fights, that is an individual thing. And that's why when people ask me, BSJ, why don't you just communicate to your teammates? I'm like, I can't tell them, like, how to play your hero. You know? I can tell them I need their help, or I can tell them I'm going top, or, you know, that kind of stuff. And for you guys, I'm telling you that not to make excuse from my perspective. I'm telling you because really focus whenever you communicate. The only negative communication, in my opinion, like, nobody's perfect, I do it as well sometimes, is playing other people's heroes for them. The only time that you can tell people to the best of your capabilities what they should be doing or what they need to build is when it's in relevance to you. So if Sand King says, you know, I don't know what to buy, I don't need anything, and PL's like, I could really use a Glimmer, or, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
That's something where you can micro them in regards to, like, hey, like, I could really use this item. Buy it for me. Or Sand King's like, I can't go in first. I need you to go first. You know, that kind of stuff to Brew. That's telling him what to do because of your knowledge of yourself. You know what I mean? If you're trying to be like, I'm thinking about what Brew's job is, shit. The way that you should approach that is, you realize, I can't, like, sometimes it requires in the middle of a game you make the mistake first. That's what will happen, right? You'll make the mistake and be like, shit. Like, you'll blink in on Sand King and instantly silence to be like, guys, I can't go in first. Like, that you know, it's something sometimes you'll learn in the middle of the game. And if you're thinking, I can't go in first, how do you solve this problem to yourself?
You either get an item that lets you go in first, or have a teammate.
You look at your teammates, right? You look at your teammates, go, can somebody do it? And if you're not sure, you ask, and if they can't, then you're like, okay, I need this item in order to go. Like, and if you're Brewmaster, you're like, I'm supposed to go in first, and I need this BKB. Guys, can we chill? Like, you know, can we not fight? Yeah. That kind of stuff. You know, these are all just little things to consider asking yourself. Obviously, you know, probably will help if you guys review the session later, because there's, you know, I don't think you can possibly, even I can't remember what I've talked about most of this time, so.
Are you going to upload this to YouTube?
I am going to do my damn best. Apparently last time I had them, there was some serious issue, and if it doesn't work, I will figure it out in the near future. So I will be doing my damnedest to make sure it is. Okay. If not, my VODs are available, and there'll be a highlight of them. So.
Okay.
You don't have to like subscribe for them or anything. So at the very worst. So that's like a good smoke. This is a problem where, if I tell you guys, dead lane concept. Most important tower in the game. What is it?
Enemy safe lane tier 2.
Yeah. Enemy safe lane tier 1. Like, you know, let's not jump to conclusion, man. You haven't even taken the tier 1 yet. So this is just something where you guys should, whenever you're drafting, whenever you're playing, this movement that happened at 23, I think just needed to happen earlier. And it also happens a lot, by the way, to do with whatever hero in your game was supposed to be here most of the time. Any hints on which one that was?
Yeah.
Peel. So it's just like one of those things where that'll help you a lot as a team to know you have to make a movement on this tower as early as you possibly can. And then it'll also help you individually realizing if it's your job, like each one of you should consider, is it my job to push this lane? You know? Because if you're not doing it, it's actually making your entire team being able to take this tower having a much harder time. This tower was probably dead or close to it if you were pushing it, right, during that one time we talked about.
Yeah.
So if you know as a PL that your hero likes to push this lane, then the minute you kill all of them, you're going to instinctually go right there. You know what I mean? And that's something where eventually these thoughts, where if you start to think who pushes this lane, who does what, who buys this, who buys that, these thoughts will just naturally come to you. Like, you're not going to be so distracted by these thoughts you can't play. You know, you're just going to think to them. You're going to, like, it's going to be in the back of your mind, I want to go here. And then the minute you kill people, you're like, oh, I'm going. And so we're going to fast forward just a bit. We're going to wrap it up soon here, guys. Usually, you know, as we're going to see how this game plays out. Obviously, there's just every little thing we've talked about, if it done differently, would change the course of this game. This ends up going 74 minutes, so I'll probably go to about 45. So you clear... So you were looking for a kill. Okay.
It's I think it's like a 45-minute game. A lot of that was draft time.
Oh, okay, maybe. Okay. So real quick...
Basically... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What I remember is basically happening is a part way through, there was a timing where Slark and Monkey King both got a BKB at around the same time. And we took a fight near Roche, and we just didn't have any tools to handle that, and we all died. And we didn't know how to fight them anymore after that. We just kind of slowly lost.
Okay.
And we've been slowly losing the whole time.
I'm basically going to tell you, like, here's... Why do you slowly lose? Is it because you're mis-executing team fights?
No, it's because we are in the wrong places on the map.
Okay, cool. As long as we understand that together. So, would you consider it a travesty that you take this tower, bottom, and the next, like, 2 creep waves go unfarmed? Like, you farm this one. Okay, this is how I look at it. You took that tower in order to control this part of the map, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you were doing? And then you just... Everyone leaves.
Yeah.
What about these camps? What about this camp? You know, like, okay, what do towers do for you?
They give you map control.
Do they give you a lot of gold?
Yeah.
It's less than a bounty earn, dude. It ain't a lot of gold at all. Less than a bounty earn. So my point is, yeah, that gives you gold, but it's like very little, okay? So if you get a tower and then you don't actually use the farm that the tower provides you, you ain't doing anything with it. The reason why the tower is important is that you farm more things. As PL, you know? Kill this wave, kill. You know, like, look at all this net worth. That's like 800 net worth. Like, look at your net worth. You know what I mean? My point is, in this game, it happens to be you. I'm coming down hard on you, and it's something where it would probably, no offense to the other 2 cores, they would probably do it incorrectly if it was on them, okay? It's just something where as you, like, you know, as you go up in the MMRs, it becomes more and more, you know, people will do it more and more correctly. If you guys do it where, you know, your mid laner is usually the survivable split pusher, your off laner is usually this team fighter type hero, initiator, and your safe laner is usually like this little bit greedier but kind of split pusher type hero, or, you know, whatever you guys want to delegate to some similar resources, then you will improve at this a lot quicker. It's much better if you, like, try to keep your roles in this regard to, like, being on the map similar. You know what I mean? And if you give your 4 position a hero that often wants to take a lane for farm, or something like that, like he has a similar playstyle in most games, like I'm going to help my lane, and then take farm for blink, and then go back to being active, something like that, some semblance of that process, then it'll just help you guys refine this. And then once you, like, really refine that, maybe you can expand the type of heroes you play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe like your mid laner can be a DK, and you're like a more of an objective DP DK type hero, and your safe laner can be, you know, the survivable split pusher. Either way, I'm just saying that for the short term, it helps if you keep these jobs and like where people should play on the map, whether that be like the dead lane, the safe lane, that kind of stuff. If you keep that similar within your heroes, it'll help you guys a lot.
Do you think this specific draft has a kind of healthy balance of roles among the cores?
I think it's good enough. Like, okay. I think it could be better. Like, what I'm saying is, it's not the limiting factor. The way I look at it, like, your draft is not inhibiting you from like learning this. Is what I'm
totally.
looking at.
But just looking at trying to sort of just make drafts to help us learn this concept. How would you tweak our draft to be better equipped?
How do I think about this? Generally, a hero that threatens towers more is generally always better. So, like, they have a Beastmaster, for instance. Like, yeah, Ember and PL clear waves, but they're not actually... Like, if you have a designated hero that participates in tower pressure, it can be a Jakiro support. Like, it can actually be any role. Jakiro from the support role. Let me see here. Let me think. Is there any 4s that do it? It would like traditionally Chen, you know, from the 4 role, but he's not really good anymore. Lesh from the 4 role, like a Nature's Prophet 4 or 5 or 3, even like an Underlord type hero that builds like Helmdom. Any hero that is naturally going to be the hero that's pushing towers or is going to be a part of the push. That means that hero is almost exclusively responsible for keeping that lane pushed and then helping you guys set up for that push. So then every time you guys want to smoke for an objective of your own, it's always going to that hero. You know what I mean? Like, that will simplify your choice on that. The thing I have about your draft is you guys, like, honestly, it would be a fine draft, like, even in like a professional match. I'm not saying like against their specific heroes, but I'm saying like the balance of the draft is fine. It's just harder to play if you don't have that objective hero. Like, you don't have a hero that says this hero does that. And so it just makes it a little more... It actually makes it much harder. Like, I remember I watched a Liquid game where they picked this really crazy draft. This was a little while ago. It was like even last year, I think. It was like Wisp, Morphling, and then like Ember, some other split pusher in the off lane. And I was like, holy shit, where do all these heroes go? They have like Wisp, Morphling, Ember, another split pusher.
They all want to be in the same place.
And they played this flawless. They played it flawlessly. I'm like, I'm not fucking... I literally watched that game. We tried to emulate it on my other team, the Leviathan team way back, and we couldn't do shit. Like, we couldn't play it even... we couldn't play a remotely similar draft. Because that kind of draft is way harder to execute than what these like Chinese teams will do, where they just pick DP, and then Ame plays a hard carry. Not to take away from LGD. LGD is a great team, but like what they do is like honestly pretty straightforward. They just do it insanely well. It's like all there really is to it. It's kind of like it doesn't matter if the enemy team knows what you're going to do if you just do it perfectly. That's kind of LGD's approach. Liquid and these other teams really like to throw like curveballs at them. It's like, I mean, so I look at your lineup and I just think, yeah, that's pretty hard to, like, even at a high level to know where everyone should be. So if I think it's a little bit harder for me, then I definitely think it's going to be harder for you. But that's up to you. It's not. It's ease of execution is definitely a thing, but you don't actually have to have it.
Yeah.
It's just something to consider. If you the way Kyle worded it is, how many team fights do we have to win before we win the game? If you have like a Lycan carry or something, you have to win like 2 team fights and you win the game. With your lineup, you have to win probably 4 or 5 team fights at least, maybe more. So this is good. Fights on this side of the map are always good. And he's dead. I mean, I assure you, if you understand the dead lane concept where you want to force all the fights around here, I mean, almost every game. It's like there are exceptions that I've mentioned, but for the most part, almost every game. And you force them to fight you around here, people will just walk into you and die, like that guy did. Yeah. It will happen. They'll just die. If you understand it, I tell you, my 7K players don't understand it for the most part. Like, you know, unless they're better than me or professional level players or to some extent, they usually don't get it. So. And there's really nobody better. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so, but yeah, so you went for a Vanguard, which is an interesting choice. I guess maybe building Abyssal eventually, you need a sustain item. I think like a overall, like just a Heart or a Manta would have been better. I think Vanguard's a little bit of a just like an unnecessary item coming from your perspective. Ember, definitely buy items and components. You know, I think you need this Lincoln's type item. I think the other option for you could have been Yule's. It doesn't solve if you get a Yule's, the way I look at it as, if you're having a rough game, right? Meaning like, yeah, you're second in net worth, but it hasn't been like a perfect game so far. So what I mean by that is you're not having a rough game, but you're not having a perfect game. So you can choose between buying the 5k gold item that stops all of the ways of killing you, or you can buy the 2700 gold item that prevents all but one way of killing you. And then as a split pusher, your only concern would be the Beastmaster, right? If you had like Yule's.
Do I see Beastmaster on the map?
Yeah, wherever Beastmaster is, I can be anywhere else. But it's either way is fine. I just want that option to be apparent to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So with Ember at this stage in the game, what objective do you guys think you need? Anybody can answer, and then I'll reference to Ember. What's your objective? You guys clearly know what it is.
Roche.
Roche, yeah. So it's like Roche or Tier 1. Do you have anything to play for bottom?
No.
So what's a hero like Ember's role in this kind of situation?
Split, maybe?
Yeah, you're supposed to force them away, right? From what you want. So what lane should you be in?
Bottom lane.
Bottom lane, right? It's not PL anymore, because Ember's he's better at showing up to the fight that's around Roche than PL. Earlier, PL wants to be here because you guys want to fight around here. But now, you guys want to fight here. So the hero that's more mobile goes here, right? Did all this make sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did somebody say on? Or am I hearing myself? Maybe I'm hearing. One of you guys, I think, is a little bit echoing when you turn your mic on. It's fine, though. So, basically, I think you're probably going to end up going here. It's going to be like one of those where you realize it 20 seconds after you should. Okay, what are you thinking this is accomplishing right here? Now that we've talked about this, what are you accomplishing by taking these creep camps?
Not much.
Think about it in reference to your teammates.
Taking the safer farm where you can have the more...
You're stealing their farm, because nobody else on your team can farm this, but a lot of heroes can farm this. So all it is in this kind of situation is if you have the most aggressive hero farming safely again, then all the heroes, you're going to have the same farm. The map pressure is going to be less, and your teammates are going to have less. That's how it works. So whenever you're this Ember Spirit, like Puck, Quap, these like survivable split pusher type heroes, always think, on average, unless you're looking for kills or something, what objective do we want? How can I force them away from it? That kind of stuff. Like if I want to take this tier 1 here, maybe I push this lane out first and then show up to my team. That kind of stuff. Heroes like PL are more directly pressuring the lane. They will be in the lane that you want to take. Heroes like PL Beastmaster, they kind of consistently shove in the same lane and then eventually take the tower. That's something where just know that there's different types of heroes with that. Do your best to understand that. And guess what? If Ember doesn't go here, guess who does? It's when now you go. So about a minute and a half late. I'm just saying it always happens. You always get there eventually. A little bit overscared, I think. But now because you were late, guess what? By the time you got there, the rest of your team left this area. And then this. Do you guys see this? Like how one player can, like a lot earlier it was PL. This time it's Ember. Obviously they end up not taking it necessarily. But you don't want, if you think about it, your objective is Roche. You don't want the rest of your team to ever leave Roche. You know what I mean? Maybe send Sand King to push this out. Maybe. Maybe PL as well. You can send one hero, but that's not even that far, right? That's way less far than this. So Ember continuously pushing bottom is really important. I think you're also playing a tad scared on Ember with your Lincolns. I think you're not giving your hero enough credit. And guess why you guys lose this fight?
I didn't push bottom.
It's just the lack of pressure, right? Almost every game you guys are going to win. You're going to win fights because your map pressure is better than theirs. It's just how it's going to go. The point is, if you're playing it, if you're 2.5k, and you're playing against a team of 5, that's 4.5k. Are you ever going to get a good fight? If they're all 4.5 and you're 2.5?
No.
Why?
Probably because I mean, they're both mechanically more skilled, so like 5v5, they probably win.
Well, that's true,
And
but what's
they
the main
probably-
reason?
Probably because they're pushing lanes.
They're just pushing
faster than
lanes
they can
fast.
respond
They're just
to.
moving. They're distributing their resources, and they're moving around the map faster. And what's going to happen is every time you try to take a fight, the lane's going to be here. Like if you're raiding, the lane's going to be here, 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 and you're going to like try to take a Roche fight, and you're just going to like hope it works out for you. Like every game that I've ever beaten, a vastly superior team, with a few exceptions. Most of the time it involves us like winning like 7 or 8 fights in a row, because the rest of the time where we're not fighting, we're just getting out efficiency. Like that's just how it is. And so my point is, we can look at team fights, and it's really important that you guys build the right items. That's a main thing, because that if you build the right items, that tells me you know your role in the fights, right? But most of the objectives you couldn't take, most of the fights that you lost, were actually a result of somebody on the team going to the wrong area. And that's what I mean, it's something that I don't need you to do it at my level. I need you to do it at a 3.5k level. You know, that's what we need you to do. So that over time, it just will get better. I think I'm pretty much done with this game, because after you guys lose, did you guys lose Roche? You guys lost it, right? Yeah. After you like lose Roche, the map control in this game goes down a lot. Both teams have split pushers that are almost impossible to kill twice, but quite easily possible to kill once. And in that kind of game, Roche is incredibly impactful, right? Because it just makes them be able to farm more, be able to be more aggressive on the map, and then you just lose slowly but surely. And one of your heroes gets picked off, and none of theirs do. That's just kind of what ends up happening in these type of games. So, overall, guys, are there any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. So I think in general, the way most of our games go, like when we're playing against worse opponents, is kind of like as you're talking about. Like we'll get ahead in lane, and we'll keep all of our lanes shoved in. We'll take like good opportunity fights. And I think what we noticed in this game is that we all played, I think, a little bit scared and just didn't have any of that pressure go out when we were playing from behind and against a team that we were thinking was better than us.
Yeah.
I guess, is there anything that you could say about sort of the difference between executing that sort of same pressure from ahead versus from behind?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting thing. So a lesson I learned from 747 was, if you go into a lane thinking you're going to lose, guess what's going to happen?
Gonna lose.
Okay. So basically, you have to somehow overcome this mental blocker of, with better players, does the definition of out of position change at all?
No.
Does a better player suddenly make Slark have better stat gain or get more gold per last hit? No, right? Like, the point is, if you're confident in what your hero does well, like what constitutes you being in position, out of position, how you die. Like, when I'm saying Ember, it's like, these better players, it doesn't make them kill you better through a Linken's. They kill you the same way. It's just like, maybe they'll coordinate a bit or something. But, like, it still requires a Linken's break plus Beastmaster, right? Like, that's what it requires. Yeah. So if you're going to split push with this Linken's, you know, who cares if they're better than what you're used to playing against? Like, you need to think in the game objectively. That's why when players come into my stream for coaching and say, but my teammates suck, and I'm like, does that, you know, in a perfect world, does that actually change, like, how you're supposed to play the game? Unless it ruins your game. But we're in a team fight atmosphere where you guys are, or a team composition atmosphere where you guys are all trying to better each other. So, in this case, it's just like one of those things where every game that you're competing, you're going to go in with all the experience that you've had from Dota. Like, you're going to have the knowledge, the limited knowledge or execution, whatever, based on, you know, everyone's limited to some extent, based on past experiences and your practice and learning and everything. And all I can say is none of that shit changes based on how good or bad your opponent is. It literally comes down to, do what you know how to do. Is that good enough? And somehow you have to not psych yourself out. Like, it is easier said than done. I don't really have a better answer for you, because this is something that often happens. Like, I've experienced something similar. It's like when I'm going against an open qualifier team compared to EG, you know, like, it will be mentally different, even if I try to act like it isn't.
Yeah.
The thing is that you have to tell yourself, like, just because the players are better than you, if you say in your own lane, say like you're the Sand King Brew, and you have to establish for yourselves based on your knowledge of your two heroes, they're not allowed to step past this line. Or if he drops below half, we can kill him. If he's a better player, that doesn't change. Like, doesn't matter if he's a better player. If he steps past, if he steps past that line or goes below half and then walks up, he's still the same dead as he would be if he was worse. So if you think about the game that way, like, what are the limits of your hero? What are you supposed to do on your hero? What are the limits of theirs? You know, try in your best way to think about the game based on what you know about it, rather than what you think the enemy knows. Every game you guys play as a team, your enemy's going to be different. You guys are going to be the same. That's how I've always tried to explain it to myself as well as my teammates. The knowledge and skill you have will be constant, meaning not saying it won't grow, but it will be something you're always familiar with. But what the opponents are doing will always be different. So if your knowledge of yourself and their heroes remains constant, you'll play the same way regardless of how good or bad they are. It's kind of like, sometimes I'll have weaker level games and I'll be like, shit, I didn't think they would coordinate and kill me. And I'm like, well, that's just me not being disciplined. Even if they're bad, if they're missing 4 heroes on the map, I should respect that they're missing 4 heroes. You know what I mean? It's the same idea. It's like, just because you don't think they're good doesn't mean they're not going to make good plays. And if you think they're good, it doesn't mean they're not going to make bad plays. Like, I've played matches against good players, and like, sometimes you actually go, like, what the fuck are they doing? And you just kill them. Like, I'm not going to name names because that looks trashy, but they're like, what are these guys doing? And then you just kill them. And that, like, you guys will have that against these players that are better than you. So I know that was like or that you think is better than you or whatever. I know that was like maybe a longer explanation, but I don't really have anything better.
No, yeah, that's good. And I guess the only other part to that question is that sort of player skill aside, coming into like the mid game at a net worth deficit, is there any sort of difference? Because it seems like from what I heard you say explaining so far that like the idea of which hero should be where on the map is the same whether we're ahead or behind. Is that true?
Yeah. In general, though, like, say if you're gonna win. Okay, so the way I look at it is this: like, if I'm PL, I'm almost always gonna be on this side of the map. If I'm ahead, I'll be here. If I'm behind, I'll be here.
Got it.
That's like one example. That's about the most general explanation I can give you. It's different every game. But, like, if you're saying, hey, we need to not have this lane be at our tier 3, and the only way that can happen is killing this Beastmaster, guess what you gotta do?
Yeah, you gotta smoke.
You gotta go smoke and kill that fucking Beastmaster. Like, that's just life. If you're behind, if you're ahead, usually you just have to know where you're supposed to be, and you have to go there. If you're behind, usually there'll be some obstacle that's stopping you. You not only have to know where you're supposed to be, but you also have to know what's stopping you and how to prevent it. Like, that's generally the difference between being ahead or behind.
Great.
Anything else, guys?
That's it. Thanks.
Right on. Thanks for signing up, guys. Sorry I was late.
No worries. Thanks for the time.
Have a good,
Thanks for the help.
Have a good rest of the weekend.
You too.
You as well.
Every session today went quite a bit over, but that's okay. First coaching session day back. A little bit exhausted. I was going to do an educational video, but I've been coaching for about 7 hours. I wasn't expecting to coach nearly this long. Let's see. Oh, we dropped a ton of frames. Well, that sucks. Why am I dropping frames, dude? That's so triggering. That's gonna be a laggy video.